Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarah van Grenen, aka Mr. VG, and what a wonderful chapter. Our last chapter, actually, that I'm going to do for the grade 12 curriculum. Then every single chapter is on the JT online website. So, what we are going to look at in this chapter is correlation. And this, of course, falls under the chapter of statistics. In other words, paper 2. Now, what is correlation? That's kind of the very important thing. Well, the whole idea behind this chapter is to investigate the relationship and the strength of that relationship between two variables. In other words, I have two variables, two things that are changing, and we are wanting to see how does the one change affect the other one. For example, okay, the age of children and their height. Okay, now I can see that actually, or at least not I can see, as if I've got this magic glass ball, but I've got a sneaky feeling, a spidey sense, that there's definitely a correlation in children between the age of the children and the weight, or the time spent in a mall and the amount of money spent. Again, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to this question of, do we think there is a relationship? Yes. Can we prove it? Well, that's what this chapter is all about. This chapter is all about proving that there is a relationship and how does the relationship look. So let's have a look at this example. I took a survey where I interviewed 6 kids. I'm saying interviewed very, very loosely. And I looked at what their weight was. Okay? So that's my X and my Y. Let's assume that the weight is in kilograms while the age is in years. If I had to plot this, remember we call this a scatter plot. Okay? I'm going to start with the age of 3. So I go up to 3, and then where it crosses the weight by 10, I make my first dot. I repeat this process with 3 and 12. There we go. And what must I do next to plot the rest? Well, just repeat the process. 4 and 15, 4 and 14, 5 and 12, and lastly 5 and 16. And there, ladies and gents, you have all 6 dots, all 6 points, or sets of coordinates if you want to go that route. But, it's going to look a bit, all jumbled up because of all those little lines. So let's erase them and just look at the actual coordinates, okay, not the guidelines. Now my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, what do we see here? What kind of a relationship do we see? Well, what I see is an upward trend, okay? Meaning, as my age goes up from left to right, so as my age increases, then my weight is also going to increase. Now, I want to ask you this question because these are the kind of questions that might come up in the exam. If I take that trend line, that is the word we use for it, trend line. If we look at that trend line, will it be able to carry on forever? No. It can't. Why not? That's the question. Why can't it carry on forever? Well, the simple reason, eventually, I'm maybe going to get to someone that is 60 years old and weighs like 150 kilograms because the weight just continues increasing forever. That's not going to happen. So what can we say? Because this is now the important thing. Let's get back to the question. There is a positive correlation, meaning as the X values increase, so does the Y values. We call that a positive correlation. Okay? Now here comes an interesting question. What do you say? Do you say that little point there, that extra one there at the bottom, does that really fit the rest? It's a bit dodgy, I'm going to be honest. It's kind of on the barrier there. There is actually a formula for to see whether that is an outlier or not, but we're not going to go there. But I want you to start thinking about that. Does every set of coordinates fit? Well, in this case, I'm not saying yes or no definitively. Let's look at the next example. I'm going to ask you to make a drawing of this for yourself. So first draw the scatter plot. Then I'm asking you, what can you see about the correlation between the time spent and the money in the wallet? Then as well, are there any possible outliers? Well, let's go for it. Okay. Want you to try and do it yourself first. So hit the pause button and go for it. If I look at this, ladies and gentlemen, there I have plotted every coordinates, all of the coordinates. What can you see just by looking at the graph? Is this a positive correlation or a negative correlation? Well, there's a negative line. The line slopes negatively. That's the better word. It's not a negative line. It's the line slopes negatively, which means the correlation is negative. So there's a negative correlation. What does that mean? Here's the question. What does it mean for the graph? As the time in hours increase, in other words, as you spend more time in the mall, there is less money in your wallet. So as the X increases, the Y decreases. Okay? So it's important to always interpret that. So as time increases, the money decreases. Are there any possible outliers? Well, I can kind of say with, a relative amount of certainty that 5 and 400 just doesn't feel like it fits. Please, again, I'm not saying it doesn't, but it doesn't look like it fits the rest of the data. So I can say my spidey sense is telling me that is going to be an outlier. Okay? Can I say it without a reason of a doubt? No, not really. Okay, not really. There is actual maths formulas to determine whether it is an outlier or not. Now, if it is an outlier, in real life, you see what I wrote there. Ignore. In real life, we would actually ignore that outlier and just use the other points as the coordinates to determine the trend line. Now, must you do that in the exam? That's a very interesting question. I wouldn't. I'm saying that to you very clearly. Unless the examiner guides you. Unless the examiner guides you and say, are there any outliers? Maybe ignore the outliers. But on your own, I would rather stay clear of ignoring anything and just use all the coordinates. Remember, you've got to answer what the examiner wants. So ladies and gents, this is Mr. VG signing off after the first video. I hope that you are starting to make sense of what we are doing. In the upcoming videos, I'm going to go into more the mathematical proof of what we've just seen. Oh my English, it's broken. So what we've just seen, in the next videos, we're going to prove there's a negative correlation. We are going to prove the equation of the line, what it is and how to find it. Okay? So ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please sign into our next video and all the videos coming up. Keep well. Cheers.